the Indian Center up there. I don't know if they're even still alive. I don't know. There are two brothers running it.
Okay, so I just pressed that on. This is an interview with Oliver Collins, chief of the Tallige. Can you say that for me? Tallige Cherokee Nation of Ohio. Is that correct, or what's the actual title of the tribe?
Just Tallige Cherokee Nation.
Okay, and you were just telling me about, you were asking me if I'd ever heard of the Kennedys up there in Ohio. Can you explain who that is?
Well, that was an individually run and operated Indian Center in Canton, Ohio. For many, many years, we cooperated together to fight Native American Indian centers and their operators like Clark Hassick, Kenny Irwin, Guy Jones, Mark Welsh, Shotgun Bob. I don't know his last name.
And why was he called Shotgun Bob?
Well, because he always wore an overcoat and a sawed-off shotgun underneath it. So he brought guns around to wherever he went. And why did he? Oh yeah.
Was he doing that to? Excuse me. Was he doing that to intimidate people?
Yep. And they did a very good job of it too, because we didn't carry guns to the meetings that we thought was supposed to be peaceful, like the Council of Churches in Ohio. We were supposed to be trying to get some information together to stop the pot hunters from digging up our burial grounds here in Ohio. And we would have secular meetings, like down in Manchester, for instance, that the Indian Center sent representatives down. We had our state representatives there to try and get state recognition for our groups. And the Indian Centers out of Columbus and Dayton, mainly, sent disruptors down there. And one of them was Shotgun Bob and Pat Holly, a few of the thugs, actually, I believe. In my opinion, they were paid thugs by the Indian Centers to come around and intimidate people like us and to disrupt our meetings to try to get us to go back underground again. And they did a very good job of it for quite a while, until we decided, well, turnabout's fair play, so we started carrying guns ourselves. Quite illegal in Ohio at that time, but so was carrying a sawed-off shotgun. So, that's just the way it was here in Ohio for quite a while.
Right. Well, I mean, my gosh, you had to protect yourself.
Exactly. Yeah, the CNO sent the Cherokee Task Force, or somebody sent people up to Dayton, Ohio, or Springfield, Ohio, and to get that right, to cut down prayer poles that the Shawnee people put up, as a matter of fact. And they were Cherokee, so we were called in to go stop them from doing all that. And we did. We went up and we had a confrontation, and there was 2 of them, and there was 18 of us in that little task force. And so they left town, but they've never totally left. There's always somebody up here. AIM, American Indian Movement, has quite a hostile group of people up here in Ohio. But the Tallige people were mainly into the preservation of the burial mounds and effigy bird mounds, our graveyards. Mm-hmm. And we have actively saved and successfully saved, I should say, the alligator mound, the bird mound, the cross mound. I can't remember them all now.
But several,
yeah. And still our main thrust is to saving our earthworks and etc. Because once those go, those are our sacred places, and once they are destroyed, then our culture is destroyed. It's over. So we actively pursue the mounds, and at least the ones that we can find here in our area mainly. There's people in Toledo, Samantha Eckert, that was trying to help people in Springfield, Ohio. I forgot his name. I think he has Alzheimer's now. But his son is quite active.
Now you were saying, can you go back to this Kennedy family that you were talking about and tell me again?
Oh, in Canton, Ohio. Canton, Canton. I think that's how you spell it. Anyway, yeah. They ran an individual owned and operated, I guess you have to say, Indian center, where they actually had help for the Indian people in the area. They had schools that you could go to in their Indian center. And they would help you with clothes, and they'd help you with food, they would help you with rent and electric, and they got all that by donations and etc. I don't know if they got any state help or federal help, but they were quite active in their area, and quite successful too, last I heard. There's all kinds of little groups like that running around in the state of Ohio, but underground. They're not publicized in any manner because they would catch much agony from the Native American Indian centers.
And so the Kennedys are some of the good guys that are actually helping the indigenous Native communities in Ohio. And you're saying that a lot of the Native American Indian centers in Ohio are run and funded by federally recognized Indians who do as much as possible to disrupt the Native indigenous communities in Ohio as they can. Is that correct?
That's definitely true.
And with your experience with NACO, you were telling me earlier, you were talking about Mark Welsh.
Yeah.
And Mark Welsh is one of the board members. I believe he actually runs the NACO Center at present, which from the latest I've heard, they're actually having problems paying their electric and phone bills.
Yep, I wouldn't doubt it. But I bet they get a salary every week.
I'm not too sure about exactly what their workings are, but can you tell me again what you were telling me a little bit earlier about how Mark Welsh, Kenneth Irwin, and Guy Jones they're all friends and they work together to undermine state recognition processes?
You said it. That's exactly right. What they do is like the meeting we had in Manchester, Ohio, with the state representative and I believe the state senator who is working with to get a bill passed to recognize the indigenous groups here in the state of Ohio. And the Native American Indian Center sent Guy Jones, Pat Holly, a few other warriors, if you want to look at it that way, and Shotgun Bob to disrupt it, because screaming and hollering. Asa Primo was there. That was our first meeting with Asa Primo. He's supposed to be a holy man, but he is not, in my book, a holy man. Let me put it that way.
So even Asa Primo was involved in the suppression of state recognition attempts by the indigenous people of Ohio?
Most definitely. We got witnesses. Louis Bowling, me, my son Matthew, and Louis Bowling can give you a few more names too. That were there. Mike Holsinger. There's a whole bunch of us there that was trying to work something out. and authority would just walk away and says, until you speak with one voice, don't come back. And that's what they would do every time. Somebody would tell them, like we had a spy in our council that would tell them, and here they'd be, Pat Jimerson, all of the group, Welsh and Guy Jones, but Kenneth Irwin was the big shot at that time, and he always stayed at the office in Columbus. All he did was direct it. Now I can tell you stories about how the State Highway Commission paid Kenny Irwin and his group to rebury Indian remains that they found on the roadways when they were making roads up there around Columbus. Paid them to get rid of the bodies. Get rid of them.
And where would they go and bury them? Would they take them outside of the state?
No, they would take them to the first trash dump they found.
Oh my God.
Yep. Now, that came out of their office. That was leaked from the Native American Indian Centers. That was leaked to us. Because somebody up there found it so despicable that they had to tell somebody.
Now, do you know if they ever got any document that shows proof that this happened?
Of course not. In those days, no. They're very, very knowledgeable about paper path. Okay, they don't do that. You might find some canceled checks for health and welfare, alcohol abuse centers, seminars, things like that, but you will never find one where they actually said removal.
So, did Kenneth Irwin, does he own some kind of a company or business where other construction companies will contact him in case they come across remains?
That I do not know.
Okay.
All I know is if a job in the state of Ohio on roads or buildings that belong to the state, and they had trouble with Indian remains or Indian artifacts, etc., they would call Kenny Irwin, and they in the Columbus Center and the Miami Valley Center would come and get them and dispose of them. Yep.
So they wouldn't even. So sometimes they wouldn't even bury them. They would just take them and dump the remains off at some dump after they had taken maybe any pots or artifacts they might be able to sell for money.
Well, that's what I suspect. I never got word that they were taking the artifacts or the burial goods, but they were only. My contact at that time was only interested in the human remains, and that was bad enough in my book.
So, do you know if Kenneth Irwin is approved of through NAGPRA in order to, I don't know if they license people for it or...
No, they have no contact with NAGPRA, to my knowledge.
So it's all under the table?
It's all under the table, as far as I understand it, yes. I have to qualify that because I don't have any document to prove otherwise except the leak,
Just the people that have told you different things that have worked with these folks.
Yeah.
Now, another issue that we were discussing a little bit earlier is that there's a powwow coming up on, I believe, September the 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Labor Day. Yeah.
Which is Labor Day weekend.
Yeah.
And that's going to be out at the Earthworks area.
In Newark, Ohio.
In Newark, Ohio. And Kenneth Irwin is the arena director there.
No. Guy Jones is, as far as I understand.
Well, on there, they have a PDF that they posted online, and it says that Kenneth Irwin is going to be their arena director, and that last year, Guy Jones was the MC.
Yeah.
Now, under the MC this time, they don't have anyone listed, but I've been told that he's going to be the MC again, but I'm not sure.
Well, the way I heard
that's what I've been told too, is that a lot of the powwows in the state of Ohio are either run by Guy Jones or heavily influenced by Guy Jones.
Yeah.
What are your experiences with that, and do you have any stories about the people who didn't comply with Guy Jones and having vehicles at their powwows vandalized?
No, I don't know any of those stories. You might talk to Barbara Crandall about that, but if you want to know how the Native American Alliance of Ohio got started, was that my son and I were called up to a meeting at Ohio State University in Columbus, and Barbara Crandall and Helen Griffith was called in, invited. And Guy Jones and Kenny Irwin, and, well, that's the main bunch, stood up on the stage, and we was down in the audience, and they said, we will use you when we want you, and we will stand behind you, and we'll hit you over the head with clubs, and we will stick knives in your back until you do what we want you to do. And you can take your turkey feathers and you can stuff them up your, you know what. So my son and I, we got up and walked out because we didn't want nothing to do. They was organizing their group right then, their support group. And my son and I walked out, and Barbara Crandall and Helen Griffin walked out. But there was a few other of the group leaders in Ohio State and became part of their support group. Barbara can remember those names. I don't, because I didn't really care about them. So we got together, and Barbara Crandall and I and Matthew and Helen Griffin and formed the Native American Alliance of Ohio, and we got quite active in fighting the Indian centers, and we protested quite a lot, but it didn't seem to help because we weren't fairly recognized. We were not even the state recognized. We were only genealogical Cherokee and Shawnee, okay, and Saponi. And with those threats, which were quite often after that, threatening phone calls.
Did they make death threats?
Oh yeah. Said somebody would walk up behind us and shoot me particularly in the back with a .357 and walk away. You know, got a lot of them. You know, got so many of them I didn't even pay attention to them anymore.
Right.
So here I am. You know, I'm still alive. Yeah, and it seemed like every time we had a powwow down here. We didn't call them powwows. We called them festivals. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And we had dancers, and we brought in and vendors, and all of a sudden, here come Cage Jimerson and screaming and hollering and calling the cops about how fraudulent we were. And, of course, we were local, and the sheriffs didn't pay attention to her, but she ran away a lot of people. Yeah. And the vendors never came back the next year. Yeah. So we didn't have any more festivals. Yeah, that's how they do. They hit you in the pocketbook by all these screaming women. Oh, she was a good screamer. Yeah. Oh wow, she was good. Yeah. Very loud.
Yeah, Kay Emerson, I found her on a site on Facebook called Indians Indian Reality, and basically it's a who's who listing of Task Force Cherokee.
Yeah.
All the people who hang out with David Cornsilk and
yep.
Kiowa Cat, who's not Cherokee. She's supposedly Kiowa.
Yeah.
She can't even get her registration card correct because it didn't have the right last name on it. And anyway, she's definitely involved with Task Force Cherokee, and the whole quote-unquote wannabe movement, wannabe hunter movement that's going on out there.
Yeah.
And it's very disturbing to have heard some of the things that they did to you personally. I'm hoping that you can enlighten people that will listen to this and be educated about what kinds of atrocities have gone on in Ohio. And one of the things I wanted to ask you about now is, and I know this might be a painful subject, and forgive me for bringing this up, but I had been told that when your son passed away, that they used his death against you to smear you and your family and the Tallige Cherokee.
The Tallige Cherokee.
The Tallige Cherokee.
Yep, they did. It's right on the internet. Yep. They said that I used my son's death to get contributions from everybody that I sent people out, I guess, with coin boxes and whatever to make a lot of money on my son's death. And I can prove to anybody that I had to take out a bank loan to pay for my son's funeral. So it's he didn't have any insurance. He was been ill for a long time, and my wife and we had to take out a bank loan to pay for his funeral. And we were accused of using our grandchildren for sympathy purposes to raise money. That's on the internet. All you got to do is just keep looking at it. I believe it was they that accused me of being an Al-Qaeda contributor. They accused me of being a mafia bagman. They accused me of being a pedophile. You name it, I got accused of it on the internet. Okay.
Right. And of course they do. That's the MO that they use to try and discredit Indian people who do not comply with their wishes.
Yeah.
They try to link them with all these bad elements, whether past or present popular media, such as Al-Qaeda, which is a complete farce. And in point of fact, when they accuse people of being linked in with the mafia, they're actually showing everybody who runs them, because the CNO, Cherokee Nation of Oklahoma, United Kiowa Band, UKB, and Eastern Band Cherokee, they all run casinos.
Yeah.
And as we all know, casinos in this country were started and operated by the mafia.
Yes, they were.
And so, in a sense, what they're doing is they're being the Native American mafia. They're going around making death threats to people, trying to discredit people, shamefully using the chiefs and council members' loved ones' deaths as a means to personally attack.
Yeah.
And they're thwarting state recognition processes in order to keep the Native American population suppressed and under their thumb.
Right, exactly. Up here in Ohio, Scott, the criteria of success is the green frog scheme, the dollar bill. And if the Native American Indian Centers do not receive their bribery, then nothing happens. In other words, if we joined up with Miami Valley Indian Center, Columbus Indian Center, Cleveland, we would be great people. We still couldn't get state recognition because that would bring us out of their control. But most of the Indian groups in Ohio do not like to be joiners, I guess, because we didn't join I was invited to join the Native American Indian Center process. In other words, we would have an Indian Center in Portsmouth, Ohio, run and controlled by Columbus. See, well, we didn't go for that. We donated all kinds of Guy Jones was Selma Walker because she got old and had to have some help to run that center in Columbus. And I was at the powwow where she recognized and put the mantle of Godhead on Kenny Irwin. I was at that powwow. She died soon afterwards. She was very ill. And then her daughter got involved, and then Mark Welch come on board, and it went from helping the people to helping themselves. That's what it amounted to.
It sounds
$30,000 sweat lodge, gee whiz, that'd be a monster sweat lodge, wouldn't it?
Yeah, $30,000 sweat lodge most definitely would be monstrous. And one of the interesting things that you were talking about, with the state recognition process and them controlling the Indian people in Ohio, is that it sounds very much like what was going on with Jack Abramoff whenever that scandal broke. They were making the federal tribes pay them basically bribe money to have access to Congress. And to get their bills passed, they would have to pay Jack Abramoff's goons to get access. And so basically what you have is people like Kenneth Irwin and Guy Jones and these other bad apples that are out there trying to extort money from the Cherokee, the Saponi, and the Shawnee, and the others that are in the state.
And from the state.
And from the state, too.
Yeah. Exactly. The dollar bill is their Godhead, I do believe. Yeah. Guy Jones is supposed to be running an Indian, what would you call it? An Indian Acknowledgement Center, a teaching center in Dayton, where you have to pay $20 every time you go in to get information about Native Americans. Okay, an Indian information center. Well, I got nosy. Okay, and one of my members lives just south of Dayton, actually, and I asked him to go check out Guy Jones's operation, and he did. Well, Guy Jones came into it was a church basement somewhere over there, and there was nobody there. Nobody came but Guy Jones. But yet he claims to everywhere that he has such a large class of people coming in, and very numerous people getting all kinds of information about the Native American Indian centers, the Sioux people, etc. And I got proof that nobody came. Nobody. That's how verbally they are all over the state. But yet, when you check them out, there's nothing there.
It's interesting and sad that these Lakota folks from Pine Ridge come out into the rest of the country and they set these things up. Now,
I got another story to tell you.
I've got a cousin who's Lakota, and I've got friends who are Lakota, and they are nothing like Guy Jones or Irwin. They don't go around and try to extort money out of other Native Americans and try to beat people up or shoot people with guns.
I've met some great people like that too.
And the Lakota people are a strong, proud people, and these folks in Ohio that are doing this are making life a living hell for the rest of the Lakota, because when people run into people like Guy Jones and he says, "Oh, I'm from Pine Ridge, I'm from the Oglala Nation," they're going to remember that nation. They're going to say, "Oh, well, those people are a bunch of thieves, con artists, and grave robbers," and that's the furthest from the truth.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Let me tell you another story. We ran a bingo game here in Ohio, where we were allowed up to Class 2 gaming license, which is pull tabs and bingo. Okay, and we had a pretty successful operation.
And all nonprofits are allowed to do that. That's a law in every state.
Yeah. Okay. And we church. Let me put it that way. Support our church. And we had 39 acres and a double roundhouse on the property we own. But anyway, Louis Bowling found this woman. I won't say her name. It's supposed to be an attorney out of Pine Ridge, a woman. Okay. And she came in and said for $50,000 she would get us federal recognition. Well, I thought that's pretty darn cheap.
Considering that it takes millions and millions of dollars to do that.
Well, that's how naive I was. Okay. It hit me right where I live because everybody wants to be a federally recognized Indian.
Well, right, that's the goal. I mean, ever since the Indian Reorganization Act, every Indian tribe has had to try to get re-recognized.
Yes, yeah. Well, we paid her $30,000, $50,000. I thought, this is God's truth. Got the checks to prove it. And that's the last we've seen of her.
So once she got the money, she just ran.
She just ran. She went to California. We tried to track her down. Okay, she went to California, and Nighthorse Campbell.
Right, Senator Nighthorse Campbell.
Yeah, she's in an operation with him.
There's your Jack Abramoff. That's your Jack Abramoff connection right there.
They're running a school to teach Native American children about their culture. That's on the internet too. Yeah, that's how we found out about that. Asking for contributions, of course.
Oh, of course. I mean, these wannabe hunters, they talk about the frauds that are out there. Well, they're not focusing on their own people because most of the people that are wannabe hunters are the actual frauds.
Yeah. Well, I believe that I believe that she was a fraud. Okay.
Absolutely.
And we tried to contact the FBI, and all we were told was, "Oh, you're dealing with a sovereign nation. We can't get involved." Yeah.
Which is a complete farce and untrue. If the federal government couldn't get involved with policing members of a sovereign nation, then why do the citizens of Indian tribes have citizenship in the United States?
Exactly.
They have jurisdiction over all citizens of the United States, regardless of dual citizenship. And also they have the federal government has jurisdiction over tribes because they have a government-to-government relationship.
Right.
These people who are doing this are violating the treaties, which stipulate that there was a trade-off between perpetual war to perpetual peace.
Yeah.
And any Indian that belongs to a tribe that signed those treaties out west and are involved in this wannabe hunting excursion that's been going on for the past 50 years or longer are in violation of the treaties their tribe signed. And it's flabbergasting that the federal government refuses to step in and protect the citizens of this country whenever these violations are occurring, these frauds.
Yeah. Well, that's how naive I was. I was chairman and president of the charity also, and I got conned real quick. Okay. And my wife still makes me pay for that. Yeah. After all, you gave Cooley $30,000 for nothing, And she said, I won't even buy her a new dress. Well, of course, that's basically the facts that we were conned.
Yeah.
And Louis Bowling was conned too. He was right in it, helping to support her when she was here the first time. The Saponi Nation of Ohio. Yeah.
Because they believed her. I mean, everybody believed this person. it's amazing. It's amazing how how easily that these con artists operate and how easily that they lie. And it just goes to show you how psychopathic that they are, that they have no conscience as to how destructive their actions are and what they're doing to destroy Native American people across this country and helping in the denial of Native American genocide. Now,
true. Yeah.
Now you're the chief of the
Tallige.
I don't know why I keep having such a hard time saying Tallige. I guess I think I might have the spelling wrong on the word. But you're the chief of the Tallige Cherokee in Ohio.
Yep.
And how many members would you say you have?
We have almost 600 members now.
Wow, that's great. And you're the Cherokee there in Ohio go back.
We go back to Moytoy.
You go back to Moytoy, and there was a group of Cherokee that moved into Ohio at what date?
Oh, gee.
Probably back in the late 1700s?
Yeah, middle 1700s. I got maps, yeah. Chris Spruill, Dr. Spruill has the same map. I don't know how far you are away from him, but I supplied him with a map where all the Cherokee villages were when the French came through.
When the French came through, during the French and Indian War?
No, before that.
Oh, before that, okay.
Yeah. When they were voyageurs, or however they say that in French,
You're
there's many villages. Many.
You're
all over
about Marquette and Joliet, or?
Yeah. I don't know about those.
Or maybe the Franklin map?
You got me.
Okay.
I don't remember. Yeah, well, you have to. There's no looking it up because the only copies are in Evansville, Indiana, the originals, and me and Chris. Well, Louis Bowling has a copy too. Yeah, that's all they are in this whole country.
Now, one of the things that people will argue about often is who built the mounds, and one of the things that I get into debates with folks is who built the mounds. And the reason why the debate happens is because a lot of the Indian tribes that came into the Ohio Valley, over the years, utilized the mounds. They may not have built them, but they certainly did they did burials in the mounds, and they kept the fires going in those mounds. And from what you know about the Cherokee there in Ohio, did they utilize the mounds in that fashion?
Yes, they did. It was intrusive burials. When they became known as the Cherokee, of course, they were flushed up from the southern United States by the conquistadors. But even before that, there was a trade route from Central America, the Mayans, all the way up through Canada, actually, through Ohio and et cetera. And the way the mounds were built and the way the pyramids were built in Central America are quite similar in most respects. And I believe that there was a mixture of the Mayan, Toltec, whatever those other groups were down in Central America, into our area, because Portsmouth, Ohio is a great mound center. We had the Golden Road over to the Temple of the Sun right across the river. Well, in the old days you could walk across the Ohio River until they put the locks and dams in to make it navigable all year long. But there was Soapit Mound in Adams County. There was the Horseshoe Mounds in Portsmouth. There was the Effigy Bird Mound in Portsmouth.
Hello, you still?
It was a religious center,
right,
more or less, because the oldest people in my tribe, my little nation up here, can remember Indian people coming in and camping around all these mounds and beating drums and singing and all that. Of course, they're all gone now. I was a young man when I took over the nation. I'm not so young anymore, but they remember the people coming in, especially on the horseshoe mounds, which is now called Mountain Park in Fort Smith. Yeah.
Now, one of the sticking points that I've talked to with Lewis Bowling about is that the mounds, more and more, as archaeologists, study the remains and study these locations, are finding that there are a lot of aspects about the construction that are Siouan-based. And the sticking point is that Lewis had told me that Guy Jones and Kenneth Irwin, amongst others of the bad players there, are trying to insinuate themselves in Ohio, saying that the Lakota built those.
Yeah.
And
the original people.
And when I heard this, I laughed. I'm still laughing about it, because the Lakota were not even. They all Siouan-speaking tribes originated there in the Ohio Valley, River Valley.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
And we're talking about in the ancient of days.
Mm-hmm.
And the Massapalea, who had 8 villages along the Scioto River, along with the Tutelo and Saponi, under some different names, like the Haniasant, which were a part of the Erie Confederacy. They were there in that southern Ohio area for, it's ancient, homelands.
Yeah.
But they're, the historical Lakota or Oglala Nation, I have never seen anything in the literature that postulates that the historic Oglala Nation was ever resident within the bounds of the state of Ohio.
I've never found anything either.
Most of the Lakota and the Oneota culture they developed after they moved northward out of the Ohio Valley. Yeah. The tribes that are linked to the Tutelo, Saponi, and Massapalea are not the Lakota. The tribes that are linked to our people are the Kansa, the Kaw, the Ponca, the Osage, the Quapaw, and the Biloxi.
So where did they come from?
They all came from right there in Ohio.
Yeah, and they spread out, didn't they?
They spread out.
Yeah.
And they spread out after, though, from what I've understood, they spread out after the people that became the Lakota had left. And so these claims that Guy Jones has, and that he's going around telling people, along with Mr. Richard Hathcock, are completely dubious in nature. And although the Lakota culture and language has similarities to the Saponi and Tutelo and these others, they are not exact carbon copies of one another, and they are not subservient to the Lakota. And that's the main overarching idea that these fellows bring in, is that you must submit to the Lakota way. We represent the Lakota. But they don't even represent the Lakota. They represent themselves as individuals.
That's true. Yeah. It's a little group of people that have come in and very loudly said, "Hey, you want anything done? Come see us. You got any money? Come see us. We'll do what needs to be done."
They're just common thugs and bullies.
Yeah, that's exactly what they are. The powwow in Dayton that Guy Jones went nuts at up there. They had kind of like a lawsuit, and they called in a retired federal judge, and the BIA card ruled. The people that put on the little powwow up there with the reenactors of all the wars, etc., they lost. They can't run that powwow up at Dayton anymore.
Now how is that even possible whenever we as American citizens have the right to assemble and to have our institutions as we see fit? That's guaranteed under the Constitution.
Well, I guess it might be the Sherman Act, antitrust. They have formed kind of like economic trust here in the state of Ohio, where they rule. Any kind of powwow in the state of Ohio must be run by the Indian centers. Must be. So there's to it.
That sounds very non-legal. Illegal, as it were. I'm finding it hard to fathom that 2 or 3 people could have or assert that much control over an entire state.
Well, they have, and they even control the courts because they have that BIA card, Bureau of Indian Affairs recognition card. They rule. Yeah.
And so
now there's people fighting them. As far as that goes, Barbara, me, well, not so much me anymore, but Louis Bowling, who else? I don't know who else right now off the top of my head. Barbara keeps better track of that than I do. She's co-chair of the Native American Alliance of Ohio, so she has all the paperwork on that.
And so, as state recognition goes, have these points been brought up to the state so that they know that if Indians in the state of Ohio were actually able to get state recognition, that then they could come out from under the thumb of these thugs?
Sure, they know that, but they don't care. A year and a half ago, we got told that Hawk Pope, through his representative, had a bill up in front of the government committee, the state government committee, for recognition. Just for Hawk Pope now. That's a Shawnee remnant band over Urbana, Ohio. Yeah.
Right.
And of course, he wasn't about to include anybody else. So we went and looked at it, and you know what a bill of attainder is?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's what that bill was, and it died in the government committee. No way, would anything. It wasn't even brought up. The chairperson of the government committee wouldn't even bring it up for a vote or nothing. It just died.
Right.
He pigeonholed it. Yeah, that's how we've had 4 or 5 different kinds of recognition proposed legislation sent up to Columbus, and every one of them died in committee, as they call it. Yeah, no way.
And do you think that part of the reason why these bills die might actually be because they're, like, say for instance, if one tribe puts a bill up and it's only for them and no one else, then do you think that the people from the other tribes get it pigeonholed because they're offended that they weren't included?
Definitely, yeah.
So do you think that the state recognition process can only be won if there's a united front by all the tribes in Ohio, all the indigenous tribes in Ohio?
Tried that. We did that, and the answer was still no. Every group that could prove their Native American bloodline had a seat on the board of trustees, and it still died in the committee. No way.
Dan, at that time, because I think Lewis was telling me a little bit about this, at that time there was some debate within the all the groups that had united, they had formed a committee or some council, and I think one of the disputes within the council became who was in charge, and I think I'd been told that the Shawnee kept trying to clamor for being the ones in charge of everything, and so it didn't sit well with people.
You're right.
And so I kind of go back to the same thing. If there was an actual true unified group of tribes for the state of Ohio that came together as equals, and what one of the things I have to qualify this with is 4 agreements that they must all agree to in order to do this, because otherwise you're going to have unequal opportunists come in and try to wreck the whole process. But setting down and having 4 agreements: 1, that we would all recognize one another and share, and that we all share the same fate; 2, that we support one another regardless of differences, standing up for one another, standing up for one another's battles; 3, that we speak with one voice when dealing with the state or federal government; and 4, that the consensus is maintained among the tribes that we should meet, that when we meet, no one is above anyone else.
And rotate the speaker of the meeting.
Right.
Yep.
And because I see, I've heard about what happened at that point, and you had such a good, good thing going until that, until whatever incident, that's, the specific incident that sparked all that. And I think
the American Indian movement sparked it.
So AIM came in and they sparked that. Now is Tula Waters, is she connected with AIM?
I don't know if she's directly connected or not, but she was the one that was always wanting to be in charge of the composite group, all of it, because every time that we would have a meeting, and we had many, she would say, well, my Shawnee group was the first indigenous peoples here in Ohio, and therefore she had greater authority than anybody else in the state, and of course everybody would poo-poo her, and she would scream and holler, she and her daughter, and everybody would walk away, say, hey, how the hell we are, we don't like confrontation, and we'd walk away, and that'd be it, 4 or 5 times we tried to get everybody together.
See, that's another issue. People lacking the courage of their conviction to have confrontation. If you're fighting for your people and you walk away from a process, is that not the same as walking away from your people? If someone came to your house and struck your wife, would you walk away because you didn't want to confront? Most people wouldn't. Most people would confront.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But I think that the bottom line for any kind of unity to happen is that everyone involved has to respect and recognize that each of the tribes involved have the right to be there and have a right to have a voice, and no particular tribe is above or below anyone else, regardless of what time that they may have entered the Ohio. Because if you want to get down to historical fact and archaeological fact, the Siouan-speaking tribes originated anciently there, and if a debate came up about who had precedence, it certainly wouldn't be the Shawnee, because they didn't enter Ohio until the 1760s, and that's documented. Mr. Franklin, the man who drew the map for 1772. That's correct. 1772. specifically, the Shawnee are not in Ohio at that time. So, there might have been a couple of villages up in the northern part around Toledo where they were coming down from Illinois, but Ohio is not their original homeland. And the Saponi Nation of Ohio could have easily said, no, we have precedence, we should be the ones in charge, but that's not our people's way. That's not the Indian way either, to try to pedestal yourself, like that. And it saddens me to hear that Tula Waters would do that, because she should know, as being a Shawnee, that the Shawnee are made up of a lot of different tribes. They're not just one specific tribe. They're a conglomeration. They always have been. They always will be. And
don't tell her that. I haven't go on the warpath.
Well, I haven't ever spoken with her before, but I've heard a lot of negative things about her. But I do know a little bit of Shawnee history myself. There were Collinses that married. As a matter of fact, there was a Rupert Collins who married Tecumseh's sister. He became a war chief and was killed during the Battle of Horseshoe Bend. Yeah. And there's a lot of history that we know about, and it's just I hear all these little turf wars that go on up there in Ohio with the indigenous native community, and it really is leading to nowhere very quickly. The federal government doesn't want to recognize any more tribes.
True.
They've got the Cherokee C&O thugs like Fletcher in there to make the rules so hard that no one can be recognized, because God forbid someone might want to open up a casino.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, and most of the tribes out there aren't really all that interested in opening up casinos, because they have seen the destructive nature that comes out of doing that.
That's true. Yeah.
And it's all about our heritage. It's all about treaty rights, and most of our people are covered under treaties.
Yeah.
The federal government has never dissolved our people's rights under these treaties, and
they don't enforce them either.
Right.
They don't help enforce them.
Right. They don't enforce them, and so that's what that's why there's this question of legitimacy. Who these different groups and tribes of people in Ohio have their genealogy, and they have their history, and we still have to prove ourselves in every aspect of life.
Every day.
Every day. The federal Indians don't have to do this. They just
throw that card on the table.
Yeah, they just plop their card down and they get anything and everything that they say, even if they're corrupt and criminal.
True, yeah.
And we cannot just sit back passively and allow them to run roughshod over us. Now, I was born and raised in Texas, and I have family that are up there in Ohio, and I am a member of Saponi Nation of Ohio because of my family connections.
Okay.
And also have Cherokee ancestry. And
you Collins, you got that?
I've seen too many times where our families have given up because it's just such a hard battle. It's such a hard road to haul, to stand up and say you're Indian in this country, because of the policies of the federal government, because they followed eugenics policies which changed our racial identity, because of federal tribes like Cherokee Nation of Oklahoma and the Delaware Nation and the Shawnee Nation, who have casinos and who are interested only in protecting their rights to money and not really the culture and the people, the native people of this country. And if we sit back because we're too afraid to confront the bad guys, then they've already won. And the genocide is a done deal, because if we let them get away with it, they can hide what they've done. And I don't think anybody would allow a former Nazi guard from a concentration camp in Germany to hide and get away with it. I mean, look at Klaus Barbie and all these other Nazis that went and hid out in Argentina and all these different places. Even when they were in their 70s, 80s, and 90s, they still went and hauled these people to the courts at The Hague and Nuremberg and put them on trial and sentenced them. And although we might not be able to sentence some of these people because we don't have, we don't have any courts set up to do that here in the United States, we still can hold these people accountable for their bad behavior, their non-supportive actions, and etc. by not giving them our money. Don't buy their Native American arts and crafts. Don't go to their powwows. Don't go to their gatherings. Don't sign their petitions. And not all federal tribes are bad, but certainly we need to pinpoint which ones are, and really.
The Cherokee Nation of Oklahoma is not a tribe.
Right, it's a splinter group.
It's a corporation.
Right, it's a corporation, and it's a splinter group. That emerged in 1971 because they didn't want to follow the Cherokee law, and the Cherokee national law specifically dictated it's
1838
in
Constitution.
The laws of the Cherokee Nation, Section 55, Article 10, Chapter 4, revised laws of the Cherokee Nation, and the same is hereby so amended as to authorize and make it the duty of all sheriffs, town constables, high sheriffs, in accordance with Section 12, Article 5 of the Constitution, to search all places known or suspected to be used as gambling resorts or places of gaming, and to seize and destroy all cards, dice, checks, or other devices used for the purpose of gambling. So, because the Cherokee, the old nation, had a law against gambling and gambling establishments, it is quite possible that Cherokee Nation of Oklahoma only exists today because they wanted to break away, start their own tribe so that they could open up casinos.
Exactly, that's true. Well, I think the gambling law they passed, I think Abernoff did that one too.
Oh, yeah.
The ruination of, the Navajo, I understand, is coming out with the same kind of genocide. The Mohawks in New York.
The Batinga tribe.
Yeah, there you go.
There's a lot of tribes. If you go to tribalcorruption.com, you'll see a whole laundry list of tribes who have casino establishments and are in a process to disenroll their tribal members.
Exactly.
In order to raise their per caps.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Well, I don't know. The Cherokee Nation of Oklahoma has got, 30,000 members or whatever it is. And they did the same thing with the Black Cherokee.
Right, the freedmen.
Yeah, the freedmen. They I don't know how many tossed out, but a whole big bunch, as far as we know. And it's an ongoing process with the elite of these tribes that they are dispossessing
their own family.
Their own family, but the poor educated, the not so bright ones in their group, the alcoholics, and the drug addicts that they could help but don't. They're tossing them out to put them on the state and welfare systems and etc., which is totally against their law, really. Because they're supposed to help their people. That's what the casinos were put in there for.
Right.
But they don't. But now, I bet you huge amount of money. I bet the farm that the president of their casino operation gets a great big salary, an airplane to drive, a limousine, a chauffeured limousine, perks, get to live free in the hotel casino thing. That's what they do. Yeah, all kinds. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
that poor slob that lives in a broken down trailer or tar shack out at the holler, they get nothing. I've been there, I've seen it. I know it's there.
That's and Native American issues are a microcosm of macro politics, and what I mean is that what you see happening in Native America is happening on a grander scale throughout the entire United States.
Yeah.
As far as the citizens of the United States. Because you see that when you have, like for instance here in the state of Texas, we didn't have a lottery in the state because of anti-gambling laws.
Okay.
And in order to pass a state lottery, they had to change the law. They had to convince the public, because it was a state referendum, they had to convince the public, we're going to use all the revenue to fund education and roads. Well,
did the same thing in Ohio.
Guess what? All that money, the vast majority of it just sits in a bank account, and we have education budget shortfalls in the state of Texas.
Same here.
Why is it that when they establish gaming and gambling institutions, that all this money that they generate, because boy, they're generating a lot of money with it, none of it ever seems to go where it was intended to go in the first place?
Well, up here in Ohio, they call it the rainy day fund.
Right. That's what they call it here too.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, rainy day. What kind of rain are they talking about? Lava rain or water rain?
Well, we got roads collapsing off the hillsides in the side of the county where I live. They're just falling down into the creeks, And they're trying to patch them up, but can't do it,
Now, Texas has a good road system. I will say that. Our roads are very strong. They are always repairing them, and they're probably some of the best in the nation. But a lot of the taxes that they get from gasoline tax and car licensing and inspection stickers and things like that, all that goes into their road funds. So they're really not touching the majority of the money that they're getting off of gambling. And I bring that up because it's so much a mirror of what you see in Native America country, the reservations and these different tribes that have casino gaming establishments. They're supposed to be, they supposedly set these things up to so that the people could have health care and a good education and fund research on the tribe and things like this. But that doesn't seem to happen very often. If you go up to Pine Ridge, for example, and they have a casino, you'll find that elderly women and men who are disabled in wheelchairs, they don't even have ramps to get into their home. I saw one Lakota woman, elderly woman, who was in a wheelchair. She lived in a mobile home, and you should have seen the staircase that they put on the front of her mobile home. It's so high up off the ground that people walking have to actually stretch their legs to make it to the first step because it's so high. How is a woman in a wheelchair going to get out of her house if it catches fire?
They're not. Yeah.
They're not. And they have all this funding that comes from the federal government because of their federal recognition status, and they don't help the people.
Well, there's a Disabled Act too that they're supposed to do that for the people that apply, I guess, but
and they don't do it.
They don't do it, or nobody applies. I don't know which.
But it's because of tribal corruption. These councils for these federal tribes, while they're kicking people off the roll. I mean, if you open your mouth, the possibilities of being kicked off the roll are very high. And for instance, they did that with the Waccamaw Siouan out in South Carolina. Now, they're not federally recognized, but the same kind of shenanigans that the federally recognized Indians do, a lot of these other state tribes do too. And it's just, I really don't understand how anyone can do that to their own people, let alone going around calling other Indians wannabes and frauds.
Yeah. Well, I've been in this fight for many, many years, and I believe this with everything in my heart and soul. Indians hate other Indians. There's no other Indian but yourself. And I think that runs all the way up to the head man or chief or principal chief or president. I think that runs all the way up the scale, that nobody is as good as their group. Nobody. It's trained into us, I do believe, by the federal government for one thing. And there's been a communique come out of the BIA. Did you know about it?
I'm not sure. I know about the Delaware Nation sending a letter to the National Congress of American Indians wanting to take state-recognized tribes out of their organization. But tell me about this BIA.
Well, the BIA, I know the name, but I can't say it because that would kill our boxes and telegraph.
Right.
That if you make any waves like towards federal recognition or any process in the state that you live in, that they will come in and the Department of Justice or the FBI will come in, investigate you and find something you did wrong, arrest you, and put you in jail. And that come out of the BIA.
And when did that happen?
Last week.
Wow, so that's something new as of last week.
Yeah.
So
don't make waves.
Is there any way that you could send me a copy of that?
Oh, are you kidding?
Like, could you? I mean, maybe you could redact any names that were sensitive, that so that we don't have to reveal the source.
It wasn't on paper. I mean.
Oh, it was word of mouth. Okay.
Yeah, it was a phone call.
Wow. Okay. Well,
and that makes. Well, there was a Saponi woman arrested.
Yeah, who was that? Was someone last name Jones, right?
Lee Jones, or there was a Lee involved in it somewhere. And Louis Bowling told me.
Yeah, Lewis was telling me that someone had passed on information to him that there was a Saponi woman with the last name Jones.
Yeah, okay.
That had gotten in trouble with the law or something, and I'm not sure exactly who that might be. I think he was suspecting maybe Vicky Haithcock, because I think she was originally a Jones, or I don't know. Guy Jones has a wife. I don't remember what her name is right off the bat, but
she's African American.
So I've heard that too. Now, the thing with the BIA that you just told me, though, I hadn't heard that, and these things do make me nervous.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, you know what? I could not sleep soundly at night if I weren't trying to get the word out there about what's going on.
And we appreciate that too.
And if someone's going to kill me, or if I'm going to be sent off to jail for truth telling, I will be in good company, because there's a lot of people that's been done to.
Oh yeah.
And my whole life is dedicated to our heritage, and I could not rest well at night if I weren't fighting back. We can't allow these bullies to run roughshod over us. And
I agree.
if the BIA and the FBI want to take up for corrupt individuals, which I don't know if that's what they're doing right now or not, but if that's what they want to do, well, they're going to be arresting an awful lot of people. They better start building more jails, because there's a lot of people waking up to the corruption and putting information out there.
Well, I've been fighting for since 1982 as a headman of this little group here, and I have never seen a day of peace since I took over as principal chief. It's supposed to be a peace chief. No way. You're in up to your eyeballs in trouble all the time.
Yeah, we're not allowed to say that we're Indian. We're not allowed to stand up against tyranny and oppression and the genocide machine, or else we're labeled as crazies, kooks, frauds, wannabes, thin bloods, whatever name that they can dream.
Terrorists. That's what the word come out of the BIA. We're considered a homeland terrorist.
Well, everyone is that doesn't toe the federal government's policy.
Yeah.
And their policy right now is to deny.
Yeah.
Truth is conspiracy. Up is down, down is up. And I'm sorry, but I know what the truth is for myself. You know what the truth is for yourself. We all have our truths that we experience in life, and if we choose to back down because someone has made a threat, then that would be true weakness. And I may not be the most elegant speaker. I may not be the nicest guy in the room, but I'll tell you, I'm probably one of the most honest people that you'll run across, because we were raised that you don't tell lies. You tell things like they really are. And
well, that's what got me in trouble over the years. I tell it like it is. My wife says I do it on purpose, but it's automatic. I can't help it.
Yeah, it's just it's our nature, to stand up and defend our families, ourselves, and our people.
Well, without your family, without your family support, you're not going to be able to do anything anyway.
Yeah.
For instance, my wife stood behind me when she really didn't want to. I find out later, she thought I was wrong about something or whatever, but she would back me up, whatever decision I made. And your children, of course, they're always, dad's crazy and all that kind of stuff, But they backed me. They went right along with us too, But without your family, is what I'm trying to say. It doesn't matter how much truth you say, how much you really know about the truth. Without the family support, you're not going to get anything done anyway. You're going to fail.
You're absolutely right about that.
My wife Irma here, she's my greatest supporter and my greatest critic. But aren't all wives like that anyway?
Yeah. Now, what do you, looking to the future, just based on your past experience and knowing the nature of the beast, so to speak, what do you think the future holds for the Indian people in the state of Ohio and Indian people across the country?
Across the country, they're going to lose all their traditional rights, their religion, their customs, their traditions, all across the country. They're doing everything they can to stop any kind of community recognition. The federal government, the state government, and they're just about to win, because in the state of Ohio, the real fighters, the one that were very, very active, I'm
course, Lewis is not the youngest, the youngest guy in the room either. I mean,
he's 50-something.
You know, I'm 39, and I'm probably one of the younger people that's out there actually, you know, having an interest in all this. And